So obviously it now seems that Crysencio Summerville is an ex-West Ham United player. Maybe not in terms of getting the ink on the contract, but I'm pretty sure that this is now pretty much ironed out as far as the Netherlands winger leaving London Stadium is concerned. I wish him the best of luck. Look, we had him for 2 seasons. Let's have it right. We paid, £24.9 million for him. And we're going to be getting, there's a lot of reports that are floating around that have been giving different numbers: 50 million, 55 million, 60 million, 60.8, 62.8 or 68.2, whatever. There's a lot of numbers. It's big, big money. At the end of the day, we're going to make quite a tidy profit on a player that, let's be completely honest about it, he had a little purple patch last season. Pretty much that was it. If we're being dead honest about it, Crysencio Summerville's career was a 8-game run or whatever it was where he was scoring goals for fun. And either side of that, he was very... People said he had shades of Benrahma, and I understand that. And I thought Benrahma was a very talented player. But I think what people are saying when they say that is they're not trying to sort of say that he was crap or anything like that, but they're just sort of, that he was a player that would get into the final third and then the final option would not quite be there. And I completely understand what they're saying. So, look, I've got no problem with it, but I think now comes the point where we need to get a little bit of a move on, and we'll talk about one of the targets. But if you appreciate the content that's being kicked out on the massive YouTube channel, if you could drop a like on the stream, give us a hype, I'd appreciate that. If you could also share this content on your social media platforms, and that would then spread the reach of the content. And if you could also, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. I'm not going to do the editing, so it won't be in the top left hand corner, so you'll just have to go old school, go onto YouTube, put in the West Ham Massive, click subscribe, and also hit the bell notification. That would be appreciated. But look, Daniel Kretinsky's played an absolute blinder. 85 million quid for Fernandez, 60 whatever for Summerville. He set his stall out. He said that's the price, and you'll pay it. And it appears that he's got his way. Now we need to get some signings done. The season is creeping ever closer. I was there at Stevenage last night. As I record this, I was there at Stevenage last night, and there's a few kids that I think could possibly step into contention into the first team squad in the Championship. I think that this relegation could give them an opportunity that maybe, had we still been a Premier League club, might not have been forthcoming. Lewis Orford, Aridus Golombekis, Kibala Madrid, 3 players that I think could be beneficiaries, if you will, of the relegation in terms of them getting an opportunity. Lewis Orford, cracking goal against Stevenage. Look, it's a pre-season friendly, as I keep saying. It's a pre-season friendly. We shouldn't get too carried away with it. You can only beat what's put in front of you, though. And he looked a class apart in that second half from the players that were around him, in my humble opinion. But as I say, we need to get some signings done. Even if the youth players that I'm talking about can maybe sort of fill some gaps here and there, they're not going to be able to be relied upon for a 46-game Championship season. We're going to need to do some business. And we need to do it a little bit lively, because this is very reminiscent, this transfer window, of last summer's transfer window. And we know that last summer's season didn't pan out the way that we would have all liked. So we need to get some business done. Now, there's a player that we've been linked with that is quite intriguing in some respects, and I'd appreciate your comments in the section below. Tomas Chory, I believe that's the correct pronunciation, but again, just to be clear, Czech is not my mother tongue. I can just about get by on English. Now, he's a striker, looks very much like an old school centre forward, like an Andy Carroll, if you will, that type of forward. He's 6'6". He's massive, this fella, absolutely huge, and got something of a physical presence about him. Like I say, at that sort of size, that kind of goes with the territory. And he's been around the sort of like the block in the Czech Republic. I'm going completely off the top of my head now. I haven't got any notes, but I think his clubs include Sigma Olomouc, which is where he started his pro career. Victoria Pilsen. I think he also had a loan spell in Belgium. It might have been the Netherlands. And then he's rocked up at Slavia Prague. Now, Slavia Prague, when you mention that club to a West Ham fan, will evoke memories of Tomas Chory and Vladimir Koval, because that's the club that we purchased those players from. And obviously they were great servants. One of them is still with us, one of them isn't. So when I say I'm not saying the other one's dead. I'm saying that obviously Vladimir Koval has moved on to Hoffenheim, just in case anyone's misunderstood what I'm trying to say. But obviously we've done business with Slavia Prague before. So could we do it again? He's like I say, 6'6". Where I would be concerned is a few things, right? If I'm being honest. I mean, we're linked with a player. Great, fantastic. We've been linked with multiple players in this transfer window. I've done so many bits of content about, like I say, Dylan Lawler, Sidney Peck, Zorba Thomas. The list goes on and on and on. And a lot of the names that we've been linked with, I will do a piece because I've got to. That's the name of the game. We've been linked with someone. I've got to talk about it. I've got to get your opinions. And it just fizzles out a lot of the time. Now, that's probably what's going to happen here. Probably. But he's 31 years of age. And in actual fact, his club don't want him. Now, I like a Maverick. Now, and I'm going to sort of mention someone that people of a certain vintage will remember. And he's from the Czech Republic. And that's Tomas Repka. Now, Tomas Repka came in centre-back, come right back. Came in with a very strong reputation. But I think if I remember rightly, he got sent off twice in his first 3 games. He had a really tough start to life in the English Premier League. It took a while to adapt. Eventually, we took him to our hearts. But there was a period of time where there was a lot of people that were questioning the wisdom of the decision. He was a little bit of a hothead. And I think this guy is very similar. He's been basically slung out of the club. And the president, chairman, call him what you want, has basically sort of like said, you got to go. You got to you're a nutcase. He played in the game against Sparta Prague, their big cross-city rival, Slavia Prague. And he played in that game. Basically, he's given an opposition player a bit of an elbow in the mush, and it's a bad one apparently. I haven't seen it, but he got sent off, whatever, banned, fined, all the usual things, and to the extent where the club chairman has just basically said that you're done as far as your time at this club is concerned. So he's apparently on the market now. There's been a few reports that I've read and all the rest of it. The one thing that's not been mentioned, and I'm sort of like sitting there and wondering if it is relevant or if it isn't. And again, comment section below, let me know what you think. Am I reading too much into this? Because one thing that you probably got to sort of factor in is that the current chairman, president, whatever the role is, I'm not quite sure. I think it's called the president of Sparta Prague, the team which this Tomas Chory got sent off against, is a certain Daniel Kretinsky. So, how's it going to go down with the fans of Sparta Prague if Daniel Kretinsky, the president of Sparta Prague, signs a Slavia Prague player who, in the derby against their cross-city rivals, was sent off in such controversial circumstances? I'm not quite sure. So would Daniel Kretinsky even sanction the move? So that then makes me think, well, is this story even credible? I don't know. That's the truth of the matter. He's been linked. Look, one thing I think is fair to say that this guy doesn't have in abundance is pace. And the one thing that I think we need in the team is pace. So I just don't see that this is a signing that really makes an awful lot of sense on the face of it. Look, if we do the signing, if he comes in, I wish the guy the best of luck, as I do with anyone that pulls on the claret and blue shirt. That is just a given. But I do have to question this and sort of go, well, if we are looking at a 31-year-old, 6'6" centre forward who's a bit of a lunatic, and he's not got any pace, which is an attribute that we sorely need. Is this the player that we need? Is this a credible story? Like I say, also the Daniel Kretinsky subplot, the president of Sparta Prague. This guy's been kicked out of Slavia Prague, the cross city neighbours, for what effectively is an assault, if you will, on an opposition player. He's given an opposition player the Spanish archer in the chops, and now all of a sudden he could be signed by Daniel Kretinsky in his role as the West Ham United co-chairman. Not sure I buy it. Not sure I buy it. And even if there's anything credible in it, I do sort of have to question the wisdom of us looking at a player like this. No resale value. He's probably going to pick up a fair quantity of yellows and reds, let's be honest, because he's clearly a bit of a loose cannon. And like I say, we need pace, and this guy's not. He's an old school, hustling, bustling centre forward. And, well, we got kind of a player like that. I mean, Tati he's quite physical. He can put himself about a bit. I mean, he's not 6'6", but I'm not sure this is the player we need. I read the story and I just went, I'm not sure that makes sense. But let me know your thoughts. I mean, there might be some of you that have seen the guy play, and you might say, actually, you've not read the situation properly, and this is what I need to let you know. Fine, no problem. I'm happy to be educated. But just on first glance, I just go, not sure that this one's one that I can really get behind. But let me know what you think. Comments are in the section below. Get stuck in. And if you wouldn't mind dropping a like on the stream, giving us a hype if you've got one available, sharing this content on your social media platforms. And if you could give us a subscribe and hit the bell notification on the West Ham Massive YouTube channel, I would greatly appreciate it. Anyway, thanks very much for your time. I'll catch you again soon. Come on, you Irons.